Hey there, fish keepers. Gonna start things off with the rarest occurrence in my fish room. A Hoplisoma noxium out in the light. Used to be known as CW155. These guys are nocturnal, so you almost never see them out in the light. This is my 37-gallon corner aquarium that I've had set up for about 20 years. And I'm going to start off my series on Every Tank Has a Story with it, because it has the most special story of all my aquariums. And I'll get into that when I go over the history. So I'm going to go into, what types of plants are in the aquarium, what types of fish are in the aquarium, and the equipment that's used in this aquarium. And also kind of its maintenance routine that I use on it. So if we start off looking at its equipment, this aquarium has a Aquaclear 70 hang on the back filter, which provides a pretty decent flow in it. It's super easy to maintain. Just take out the sponges, squeeze them out. And I change the water on this tank once a week, 25%. And squeeze out the filters when I do that. It used to have a heater on it, but that heater failed. So if you can get away without a heater in your aquarium, please do so. It was pretty tragic this past summer. So now it just sits at room temperature, which is between 70 and 72 degrees, which is perfect for these fish that are in here now. If we look at the light that's on this tank, it's super old and very, very low light, but it's okay for growing the types of plants that I have in here. It doesn't show off the fish as great as it could, but I make do with it. They look pretty decent though in the video right now. If we look at the substrate that's in this tank, this was originally set up a few times as a dirted aquarium, which can grow plants really great. It used to have a lot stronger light on it. But over the years, I've switched to just straight sand. So the tough part about doing a dirted aquarium is that if you want to reuse the substrate again, you got to get the dirt out of there. So the first couple of vacuums on it were pretty horrendous when I had to re-dirt it, or the end game, which was about 15 years ago, I decided that, I'm not doing dirt anymore in this tank. And I just went with straight sand, and it accumulates fish waste and grows plants great, and not as lush as what you would with a dirted tank, but it's way easier to maintain. So about every, 3 or 4 years, I just vacuum out the accumulated fish waste and start over again. And it's, there's enough waste that's left in there that the plants don't seem to notice, and they actually do really well. This tank, because it has low light on it, almost has no algae in it. It's never really had any algae in it. The only thing that'll come up every once in a while is a bit of black beard algae on the anubias, and it's a great to grow anubias under a low light, because blackbeard algae is generally your enemy, so you want to grow anubias under fairly low light. So if we look at the plants that are in this tank right now, on the upper left hand side you can see the large leaf that's sitting up there is Cryptocorn asteriana. There's actually a number of plants in here. It's a super hardy type of cryptocorn, and does really well. It's fairly tall though, so there's some right in the back that are basically in the dark. This plant will almost grow in the dark. It does really well. Probably too big of a plant for this tank, but when it's younger, it's pretty good. In the upper left-hand corner is also Cryptocorn balance. It's pretty tough to kill as well. Below that, on the left-hand side in the middle, it's got a tall, skinny plant with opposing leaves. That's Hygrophila polysperma, a very fast-growing plant. It actually likes a lot of light, but it'll do okay in low light. It's actually doing great in this tank. I've just recently knocked it back quite a bit, and just have a couple of sprigs of it left in there. If you look right on the bottom on the substrate on the left-hand side is Cryptocorn Nuri Rose Maiden. Awesome plant, super beautiful, has super nice variegated pattern on it. Just an absolutely beautiful plant. Behind that is some Cryptocorum wenti green gecko, which isn't showing up that great on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side, if you look at the plant that's on the bottom there in the lower right-hand corner, that's also a green gecko, and it's showing up nicer. It's got the really bright green leaves. If we go to the middle of the aquarium, right in front of the cave, there's some spirally leaves that are coming up there. That's Vesuvius sword. I have to keep this plant under low light because it absolutely will outgrow any tank. It just throws all kinds of runners everywhere. And so I keep this one under fairly low light. And I've got him in another tank where it reproduces like crazy, but this was kind of my maintenance tank for it. And under the low light, it's manageable. Otherwise, there'd be runners everywhere. Towards the front in the middle, the brighter green plant is Cryptocorum parva. This tank, when it was dirt, it had a Cryptocorum parva carpet on it. But since that time, I've kind of moved away from that, mostly because I oversold it and then wanted to keep a bunch of different plants in it. If we keep going to the right, we've got a willow hygrophilia. It's a huge plant. It does really good. I just chop off the bottom of it and keep pushing it down in this tank because nothing seems to do really well in that corner with the good flow in it, but except for that willow hygro. And in the back, of course, there's Anubias. And as far as the scape goes in this tank, I've set it up like a cave. So the Anubias provides the top of the cave. And the middle in the back is actually Malaysian driftwood, which you can't see because it's completely covered by Anubias. If we look at the fish that are in this tank, the most obvious ones are Sawbwa resplendens, the Asian Rummy Nose, and the males have the bright red noses with blue bodies, and the females are kind of the chunkier green fish. There's one that's really fat in there. I think it's egg-bound. I don't know if it's long for this world. I bred these over the past summer, and there's probably 20 or so that are in this tank right now. If you look more towards the back, the longer, thinner, greenish fish, those are Oryzias soerotoi. I was gifted those by Hans Evers a couple of years ago. And the females are kind of a greenish, bland kind of a color with blue eyes. But the males turn jet black when they display. They're absolutely beautiful. Just a really beautiful hardy fish that does well at lower temperatures. So you can keep those guys at room temperature. If you've seen, as we've been going along here, there's a number of Hoplisoma panda kicking around in there. And of course the CW155s. The pandas have been in here for about 6 months after the heater failure. I don't know if they'll reproduce in here. They'd reproduce in my other tanks that are at about 76 degrees and just basically colony spawn in those other tanks. I don't know if they'll do it at room temperature. Maybe in the summer they might reproduce. And then if you look around the tank, you can see some red Neocaridina shrimp. There's probably, I don't know, a couple hundred of them in here. They're not out right now because I didn't feed them a type of food that's evenly distributed, like a flake or tetratropical granules, which is one of my most commonly fed foods, and all the shrimp come out then, but you can see a couple there on the bottom left towards the front. So that's an overview of the plants and the fish in this tank. Now we'll get to the history of the tank, and it's pretty exciting. I don't have pictures of the first dirting. This is the second dirted tank. I was pretty into Amazon swords then. You can see it filled in really well. And I had a number of fish that I probably shouldn't have had in here. Pearl gouramis, they got too big for a 37 gallon. But Bolivian rams were about perfect for that size of tank. And when we moved to Red Deer, I still had my original angelfish. He is 6 or 7 years old. You can see that the tank started to be taken over by Anubias. And the cave started to come into fruition there. You can see one of my rosy barbs. And then this rendition I really loved, and I ended up doing a little bit of video. I didn't have a great camera, so it was lucky for me to get a bit of video that actually turned out. But you can see in here I have lots of emerald-eyed rasboras, some harlequin rasboras. There was a little Espy rasbora in there, and Danio chopre. I really loved the Danio chopre when they got old. They were slow enough that you could actually see them. And there's a few Endler guppy crosses. Blonde guppies were crossed with my black bar Endlers, and I had a few of those, but they ended up getting culled out into this tank, and it just kind of held on to them. It was a super cool scape. I really liked the cave in this form, and then the cave kind of turned into a little bit more focal in the center, had some blue tetras, and then my bleeding heart tetras, which sadly passed away here. They were my Endler guppy control. Overall, this tank has been absolutely fantastic. One of my very favorite tanks that I've ever owned. The corner tank has a lot of distance between the front glass and the back, and allows you to do a scape with a bit more depth in it. The one drawback that I find is I don't like the curved glass. It's not the greatest for viewing fish, and terrible for taking video and pictures of fish in it. I would not recommend the curved glass at all if you do any kind of film work or photography. It just kind of distorts images. It's kind of sad that I don't photograph or video this tank more often, because it does have some really beautiful fish in it, and it can create quite a nice scape. It would be cool to have a corner tank that just had a flat glass on the front. I think someone should start developing that, because it really does lend itself great for a scape with depth, and I think that the cave scape works really well in this tank. I'll probably try something different here in the future. I'm really considering putting that Anubias Island, just plopping it right in the middle of there out of my 75-gallon tank. So I think it would look pretty cool in there. So what's so special about this tank story? Well, when I moved from Calgary to Edmonton to go to school, I downsized my aquariums harshly. I had 10 or 15 aquariums that I donated to the Aquarium Society or family, friends, because there was no way with a back injury I was going to be able to move all these tanks to Edmonton. And I'm sure any place that I rented while I was going to school wouldn't accommodate 10 aquariums. So I moved to Edmonton, and it was a couple of weeks before school started. And the only tank that I kept was an acrylic 10-gallon aquarium that I had set up for my daughter. And I couldn't handle it. I had to, have a nice aquarium for myself to take care of. And I went out and purchased this 37-gallon aquarium. So I'm a lifer fish keeper. I have to have fish around me. It's part of, what keeps me sane. So this aquarium showed me that I could not go without an aquarium. So this one, I had to actually start from scratch. I cycled it using bacteria in a bottle. It's super funny. I never thought of it. When I was at the store, I was like, I'm resetting up all over again. And I completely forgot that I had my 10-gallon acrylic that I could have just squeezed the sponge filter out of. And after I'd completed the cycling, I started out with lemon tetras in it, 10 of them. And I was like, wait a minute. Why didn't I just squeeze the sponge from that 10-gallon aquarium? Because you know why? It wasn't my aquarium. It was my daughter's aquarium. I needed my own aquarium. I have to have a fish tank to watch. So that's the 37-gallon aquarium story. It demonstrated to me that, I could not live without fish tanks. So I think that every aquarium has a story, and I'm happy to share them with you. Happy fish keeping. Take care.